So, I'm not on Facebook. All my online contact comes through media sources I choose because I like them, not because I'm related to somebody who does. One of the consequences of this is that I don't have a constant stream of right-wing bullshit to dip into whenever I want to complain about something that pisses me off in the political discourse. So I have to admit that I just spend free time being pissed off sometimes. So this is me jumping 10 months late into the conversation about minimum wage raises, because it never ceases to piss me off. During the labor movements of the 1800s, there was a motto, 888, which represents dividing the day up into 3 chunks. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, and 8 hours of personal time. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week is where you get the 40-hour work week from. And the idea is that if you give a company that 40 hours, roughly a third of your life, they should pay you enough that you don't have to worry about how you finance the other 2/3. About having shelter, food, healthcare, and yes, a reasonable amount of resources to do what you want to do with your free time. Work's not supposed to be your whole life. That's a human rights thing. So the federal minimum wage right now is $7.25. The states that don't add anything on top of that are Oklahoma, Iowa, Mississippi, Kansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, Idaho, Indiana, Wyoming, North Dakota, Texas, Alabama, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, South Carolina, North Carolina, Utah, Georgia, New Hampshire, and Virginia. Of those states, the state with the lowest living wage for a single adult with no dependents is Oklahoma, at $9.74 an hour. That means that it's possible to pay somebody in Oklahoma $2.49 less per hour than what they need to live on 40 hours a week. Here's a list of states where the minimum wage meets or exceeds the living wage in that state. Okay, here's a list of states where the minimum wage is less than $1 short of the living wage. $1.50? And I know people like to say that only high school students who still live with their parents make minimum wage, but that's just factually untrue. According to a 2014 New York Times article, link in the description, 88% of minimum or near minimum wage workers are at least 20 years old. Half are over 30. The minimum wage is a number that people have to build a life on. Now let's talk about this bullshit. First of all, my experience in various workplaces has demonstrated an unambiguous trend. The less you're paid, the harder you're working. Once you hit a certain point, they just pay you for having money. But that's beside the point. See, the thing is, when companies hire an employee, they're buying time off people. That 40 hours, the minimum wage, that's what they cost. To take a third of someone's life for the duration of their employment costs something. And that something should be enough. To pay them less than a living wage means you're taking away the time that they would spend working to build their life and only giving them enough to survive in their off time. If a company wants an employee, if a company wants a human, even if it's just to sit in a folding chair and watch a beach ball slowly deflate over the course of 8 hours a day, they need to pay them a living wage to do that. If they can't afford people. They can't afford human labor. Now, people needing to work to get the resources necessary for survival is a whole other issue, and I'll make a video about that eventually, but at the very, very least, minimum wage should match the living wage. If a company can't afford that, that company shouldn't exist, because it's a company whose business model is fundamentally predicated on generating and perpetuating human suffering, because it represents a failure of society that businesses can thrive that require exploitative labor practices. Definition and degree of exploitative labor practices? Another whole other conversation. Yeah, if you like this, like and subscribe. It feels super awkward to ask, but honestly, this was a lot more work than I put into some of the other videos, and I'd like to know whether that work is amounting to something that people want to see. Anyway, bye.